And we're live. Welcome to the More Than Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Bryce, joined again by my co-host today, Kevin.
What's up?
Kevin, as always, we got a good one. We always focus really on the Premier League, and we got some good points to talk about today. A little bit of break in the Premier League action, which is going to be interesting to see if some teams can kind of get healed up over this next month. But, I got to get into United. We've just hit the transfer window, right? So I want to go over some players that I think United should sell, ultimately who they should maybe keep in January. And we'll kind of just go through the list here, okay? And obviously I'll start, and I want to hear your thoughts on a player that maybe I go over if I think should be sold or not.
Let's do it.
And obviously, we're going to be talking about selling them in January. Now, ultimately, I might come in and say I think they should be sold overall. But, you can't sell half your team in January. That's just not possible. So I'm going to focus. We'll start from back to front on United's squad. And I got the list here that I'm going to go over. So really, there's nobody on the goalkeeping side that I think United can really sell. They have Onana as their starter. They have Tom Heaton, who's just really been a third string, and there's no real reason to sell somebody like that. And then we have the other keeper we brought in this summer that I cannot pronounce, Altai Bayender. So really in the goalkeepers, besides Tom Heaton, each of them have been here. They were just brought in this summer, right? So nobody to sell it on the goalkeeper side. Now, obviously,
has the other keeper played?
Not that I can remember. No, not that I can remember. They didn't even play him in the Carabao Cup. I don't think they've been playing him in the FA Cup. I doubt that they're going to play Altai in the FA Cup round that they're going to have. That would be a great opportunity to do that, considering Onana is about to go away on African Cup of Nations duty. Right. But with the run of form that United's been in, maybe they play Onana for as many games as they can. Even though I disagree with that. I don't think Onana is good enough. I would have benched him a while ago. But Ten Hag, I think, is stuck with the price tag that he bought Onana for, considering that he replaced De Gea with him, right? So goalkeeping-wise, I don't think you can sell anybody in January. Let's get into the defenders.
Well, with not being able to sell them in January, do you think Onana should go over the summer?
I don't think you can. I would say yes. Again, the problem becomes who do you bring in? So, look, Onana's not good enough to play for United. I don't care about this supposed dip in form, considering what he supposedly looked like for other clubs. He's just not a good enough goalkeeper. And I can see that already in the way he handles breakaways and the way he, for Christ's sake, even dives. You see glimpses of his passing ability. I've seen multiple times he can ping a ball, from back to front. He's put a couple players in that maybe have had a chance to score.
This is the thing. This is the thing, and it kind of relates to Arsenal in a sense. Is I struggle to see why playing with your feet in a team that usually has the ball more than the other team plays a factor over being able to save the ball. Because even as out of form or as bad as you guys have been, you still most of the time have the ball more than most of your opposition, right? So with that being the case, it's like, and I was just having to talk about this the other day, is like, if we have the ball most of the time, then why does it matter if our goalie plays with their feet or not? All we really want them to do is save goals. You know what I mean? Like, make sure the ball doesn't go in the net. So I think it's just strange, man. Like, I would definitely sell him in January if his form doesn't improve, because
there's no way.
Said,
but see, that's the thing.
I'm sorry, not January. I'm saying summer.
Summer.
Sell him in summer if you can, because he doesn't even look like a goalie. Like,
sometimes almost, I know where you're going. He almost sometimes looks incompetent as a goalie. Now, I would tell you, yes, you should sell Onana in the summer if you can get any kind of recoup for his value, meaning like if you can get anywhere between $35 to $40 million, somebody willing to pay for Onana, then you've essentially bought Onana for 15 million for one season. I take that recoup immediately because a lot of
Yeah.
the time what happens with United is these players when they're underperforming, they underperform for 2-3 seasons. Now you're trying to get rid of them in their last year of their contract, and you're not able to get any kind of value for that
Well,
player.
and I mean,
So
AIDS plays a factor into that, and I would say the biggest thing with United right now is like whether it's Onana or any of these other players that you're gonna name, you need to get them out of the door as fast as possible to start building the team that you actually want.
right.
You know
Well, I
what I
mean
mean?
that goes more into like I don't want to go super in depth into the other point, but I would say like that probably goes into if Ten Hag's even kept over the summer. If you're bringing
Mm-hmm.
in a new coach, then yeah, let's get rid of Onana. Look, we need to get rid of Onana anyway. He's not good enough. Okay, so I agree with that.
Right.
And if you stay with Ten Hag, then do you stay with Onana for another season to see if he improves in any sort? Only because you paid 55 million for him. So that's interesting. But again, in January, I don't think you can get rid of any of
No, it's not.
the
It's not
keepers.
possible to sell him in
Yeah,
January.
yeah. All right.
Defensive line. Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna get into the defenders. See, I'm looking at our list of defenders, Kevin, on United, and I'm just like, I could probably say 90% of them should be sold.
Oh wow.
The problem is, again, like I have to approach this from who should be sold in January, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire. I mean, there's almost too long of a list to really go through it like that. Okay, I'm gonna say Victor Lindelof, you do not sell. I'm going to say
Agreed.
Harry Maguire, you sell in January. Here's why. You finally had gotten him in a form that was capable. So he was
Right.
not like
He's no longer a
embarrassing.
joke. Yeah. Yeah. He's no
Right.
longer a joke. He's
And
not
and
going to
so
get
I
any
think this
better.
is the time that you sell him. Now we're out of the Champions League right now. We're out of Europa. Okay. It looks like we're not going to make either, which means the salary would not like part of the reason we couldn't sell Maguire over the summer is because he was losing out on salary, and he was not
Right.
willing to lose out on that money, which you can kind of understand to a certain
Oh
degree.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So can we sell him now for again, I'm hoping anywhere between 30 to 40 million. Maybe he's willing to make that change because he knows he's kind of coming back from an injury, and we're not looking like we're going to make Champions League again, so that salary isn't going to be there next year anyway.
Right.
So is this the time to go? I would hope United is able to sell him in January. Here's why I say Maguire sold instead of Lindelof. You need to get rid of Maguire before Lindelof, and I'm of the belief that United should use this as a washed season to really try to get rid of the players that need to get rid of. Like
Bad investment.
they have to do a big overhaul. We've talked about this multiple times that it's probably within United's best interest to finish outside of Europe for one season to really try to recalibrate and then push forward. This
Yeah.
constant ebb and flow of almost making Champions League but really getting Europa and staying in it. You know, a lot of United fans will disagree with me probably, but it's not that we want to take the Arsenal approach, but what Arsenal was almost lucky in their sense that they didn't realize that they were lucky was, Arteta finishing eighth and eighth actually probably benefited them in the long run because they were doing things the correct way. Now United would still have to do things the correct way, right?
Yeah.
But finishing out of Europe, I think, can start with that path. Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Maguire sold instead of Lindelof because we're short on center back, which is tough. But they've played that young kid, Willie Kambwala, and
Yeah.
so you have a young academy center back. Not saying he's great. You've seen him in one or two games at the most, so you don't know. But can he be competent enough? And at this point, Maguire's not the answer. So that's for me why I would get rid of a center back, even though we've had a lot of injuries. So
Yeah. And I would say Maguire. In my opinion, Maguire should go because his sell on value is the highest that it's probably ever going to be.
Ever going to be. Yes. Great point.
Um,
Great
and
point.
and it's going to be too hard to get rid of Rafa Varane, who is also better than Maguire. So,
Right. I don't
um,
really understand why they would get rid of Varane because they have right now.
salary, man,
No, no,
salary.
no. But here's the thing. He's signed through the end of this season with, and I don't think it's a player option. I believe it's a club option to pick him up for
To
2024.
extend.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So all you're all you're going to get to keep essentially if you sell him in January right now. Well, depending on how much you can sell him for, if you sold him to a Saudi Arabia team, maybe you're getting 30 mil for him, right? But if you're not, then really all you're saving on for is 6 months of salary. And at this
But
point,
that's
but at this
but
point, he would be better than because Lindelof is still trying to come back from an injury. If you were to sell Maguire, United doesn't really have a lot of depth because I'm looking at it like
no, 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 and that's why I would say Maguire would be the best to sell
right,
because of his sell on value now, and it's going to be hard to sell Varane, um, and he's better than Maguire. So essentially, what I'm saying is, like, if you had to choose one to keep, it would be Varane because he's a
right,
better defender.
right. Now, even
The
though United is saying having a better defender, we're saying like the season's kind of not done with United, but they're not really looking like they would push anywhere in Europe.
right,
But exactly to your point, to me, it's like if you can get rid of Maguire, this is the time to do it. The less games he can probably play now, the better,
hmm
right? Varane's probably going to be gone in the summer anyway if you don't pick up his option. So there's really no point. Now, if you can sell both, do you sell both? Because the issue is when I'm looking at United's squad, right? If you were to sell one center back in January, Martinez is supposedly coming back in January,
right,
and then I told you about the young kid, Kabbalah. That's
right.
the
So
only other
Kevin,
center back.
yeah. I mean,
So you're gonna have to
I
rely
would,
on Johnny Evans. You're gonna have to rely on Lindelof. You're gonna have to rely on the young kid, and hopefully Martinez coming back and staying healthy. That's
yeah,
if
and I
you
would
were to
say
sell.
I would say if you could sell both, that would be the best. Simply for the reason of you could then buy a younger, promising talent
You
for
see,
nothing more than like 15 to 30
right.
mil.
See, okay. This
Um,
is this is. I'm gonna say that I don't want United spending any money in January. I hope and pray that they don't buy a single person because
okay,
you need the new ownership to come in. You need them to get into a direction and a path that they want to go. You will have 6 months to prep for the summer window. And then from
hmm
there, you're either making a decision of a new coach and a new direction, or you've worked for the last 6 months on getting aligned with Ten Hag instead of doing these panic buys in January. So I
true,
and
true,
we're not pushing for anything. We're not going to win anything. So for me, it's not. I say the wash of a season, but like let's essentially finish mid-table so that we can recalibrate and go forward in the right direction. And then over the summer, now you're buying those players that you were able to, or
right
not that
through
you were
through
able
the
to, just like you talked about.
and
Now we've done recruitment for the last 6 months. We're
right,
spending wisely for 15-20 million dollars. United's no longer overspending on players for no reason, right? By $30 million on average is we normally talk about a United spending 30 million more on players than they need to,
yeah, and then
almost
the
for every player they've ever bought
right, right,
since
right.
Ferguson left. So that for me is who I would go with in January. I'm
So
looking at the squad.
Maguire gone in January on
Right.
the
He's
defensive
the
line.
Maguire or Rafa Varane. I prefer Maguire, and there's nobody else that you can let go of in January. I believe Regulon because he was on loan. I
Right.
think I saw reports that he was done, and so he's back at Tottenham because we're supposed to be getting Malacia back, right? But when I'm looking at this, I mean,
Wait, he's got it was only a 6 month or a half season loan?
it might have been. I don't know. Like I said, I think I saw a report. I don't know if it was true or not because I also saw a report
Mm,
that Donny van der Beek didn't get sold, but he was sent on loan to a team in Germany. But I didn't see if it was anything of an option to buy or not. But it looks like Donnie Van Der Beek from our midfield, who's only made a
He's
couple
gone.
appearances,
Wow.
is gone on loan, and they obviously would be trying to sell him in the summer. But what's
Right.
depressing also to look at is United's defensive unit. It's Kevin. It's pretty embarrassing to look at the list of defenders that they have on. I mean, realistically, I would only keep Martinez and Malacia from their entire back line, and I would sell everybody else. But that's another topic. So let's get into the midfielders. So you have Amrabat, who's on loan. I wouldn't get rid of. Mason Mount. Boy, oh boy, would I sell him in January if I could. But you can't. You literally
Right.
can't, and nobody's gonna pay 60 million like United did for him, right? Bruno Fernandez, I would keep. Erickson, I would keep. Ahmad, I would keep. Ahmad was that winger that came on
He's
for Anthony
good,
in
bro.
our last game. Now, dude, this is what I was like. He came on in our last game that we lost to Nottingham Forest, and within 5 minutes of chances created off of the right side just from his movement. He didn't create the chance himself, but his
Right.
movement allowed for a different opportunity. And I was just like, that's got to be the biggest whiff I've ever seen from United. And United's had some big whiff. And I'm talking about Anthony. He
Yeah. Oh yeah.
is like this is even a bigger whiff to me than Maguire. That's how
Oh
bad
yeah.
Anthony is.
Whoa,
It is
whoa.
oh, it
Maguire
is
gave you
it's so bad.
Maguire gave you a good season. Like Maguire gave you first season he was in,
Right.
he gave you a decent season.
Right. I mean we
Anthony
finished
gave
second.
you a good 3-5 games.
I don't even know if he did. I mean
He
technically he
did.
scored in a game. His
He
first
scored versus
appearance
us. He scored versus Arsenal, bro.
his,
That's
his
nah.
first game he scored and you're like, okay, all right, and then no. Okay, so Ahmad I would keep. Casemiro I would keep. Um, yeah, that
You
one's a
gotta
really
have a winner in the squad, man.
look.
That's why I
I
would keep
know,
him.
yeah, that's a tough one, but I would keep him because I think he's one of the only leaders we potentially could have. Now, again, I don't know what the leadership situation really is with United, but he's one of the only winners you really have in the club
Exactly.
still
He's a winner, bro. He's
from
won
previous.
everything.
Obviously
He's
not with
somebody.
United, but really from previous. Palestri, I would sell Palestri. I've seen him a couple times now. He's very quick, but for some reason, he does not look like he's developed dribbling abilities consistently enough. And I think
I
with
just
the
think
insurgence of Ahmad, I think Ahmad has looked better than Palestri. So I would
you would
sell
sell him in
Palestri.
January.
I would no. Okay, yeah, I know we're talking about something with January. Okay, you got me there. So
If
I would say no to
if
January.
anything with Palestri, and I wouldn't even, to be fair, I wouldn't sell him in the summer either. I would loan him out to a mid. Well, I guess you guys are mid table, kind of, but a mid table team either
No, but if you can
in
get, see,
the
this is why I would sell him. This is why I would sell him because he's like an Alonga to me. I don't see enough where he would get over a Garnacho. I don't see enough that like from the flashes that I've seen Ahmad, he's looked a little bit better than Palestri. So
right.
for me, I would say if I could get 15 to 20 mil for Palestri, you take that and you use
But
that
look
to
at it.
maybe buy
Look.
another
But
player.
you also, I would say from a club standpoint, I don't think it sets a good precedent to sell academy players so early, especially when you're about to head into a rebuilding season. Um, I would keep him at least for another season or loan him out, see how he does at like a Leverkusen, a Gladbach, Aston Villa. Well, Aston Villa is doing well. A
Maybe
West Ham, a
Brighton,
Crystal
anybody. You're right,
Palace,
right. Just
a
somebody where he
Brighton.
can play. All right,
Somewhere where he's
that's
gonna
fair.
play consistently. He's gonna learn to play decent ball, and
Right.
and so he can come back the next season and try to integrate into the squad.
Okay.
Or you give him, the next season to rebuild with the squad as well, because
Right.
then you're not paying. You don't have to pay as much money out for new talent.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you got me there. I'd say you're fair. I think that you made some really good points for Palestri. So Donnie Van Der Beek, like I said earlier, I believe he's already out on loan. I wish they would have been able to sell him. but hopefully they can at least sell him in the summer. You have Kobe
Yeah, there's probably an
Mano,
option to buy in
right?
that.
So Kobe Mano, obviously no. McTominay, I say no for January, and then we have Hannibal, and I also say no for January. Obviously, see, this is what's so tough is you're looking at a lot of these guys, and you're like they need to be sold, but we're trying to focus on January. So either way, maybe we'll do that another time on how many players on United really need
Well,
to get
I would
sold.
say
But
we can talk about that real fast with the last two that you said, McTominay and Hannibal.
so I would
I
sell
think
I would sell both. Or if I had the choice, like if I had to pick one to sell right now, I would sell McTominay, and then you
yeah,
put in
because
your youngsters in the academy players like Hannibal. And obviously you're not going to get the exact same, but again, we're not really pushing for Europe at this point. So play the young kids, really see what you have, right? And at least they're
mhm.
going to give you freaking energy consistently. Now McTominay, see the problem is that McTominay is also an academy kid, and I do think that he is a good squad player
Yeah, he is. He is.
because
But he shouldn't be starting games. He shouldn't be starting
no,
games.
he
So,
come in every now and again, yeah, and that's my whole point. So that's the problem I have with like I don't
but
know that
this is what
McTominay really should be sold, but
I think
if you were to
McTominay
sell
should be sold just because he again he's one of those players like Maguire. His sell on value most likely is at the highest
right
that
now,
it's going to ever be.
right?
So if for cash value, it's best to sell him now.
Well, the reason that
And
you would maybe sell McTominay is because on the books, because he's an academy kid, it's pure profit. That's
exactly,
what's
it's
going on
pure
with
profit, and
right.
he's the oldest academy because he's older than Rashford, right?
I don't know actually. I don't know. I don't know the ages with them, but I
Okay,
think you're right on
he's
that.
one of the older ones. He's one of the older
He
ones
was
for
he was
sure.
within 1 or 2 years of Rashford because they really kind of came in around the same time. McTominay was brought up through Mourinho, and Rashford was brought in through Van Gaal, who was obviously right
Mm,
before Mourinho. So I'd
okay,
say they're roughly around each other. All right,
yeah,
we'll go.
I
We'll
would
get.
say
Go ahead.
I would say definitely if you can in the summer sell McTominay, get that even in January if you could sell him. You get money, um, and then I would keep Hannibal just because I don't think it sets a good precedent to be selling academy kids under the age of 21 before they've had a true run out in the squad, especially because you guys aren't competing for things. You're not at the level where you need immediate results. Like
Right, right.
you needed immediate results a season ago, 2 seasons ago, all of that, and it didn't come. It didn't work. So to me, it's really now of okay, can we create a baseline of players who are not only, and this is the thing with the young players, not only are you possibly going to get players that can be in your first team for a long time, but also once you have the right recruitment, once you have the system, once you've worked all that out with the Jim Ratcliffe era, now you're going to develop players that are better if you then want to sell them a season from now or 2 seasons from now or even
But
you know
keeping
you
those
know
academy kids, you're probably also going to keep your wages down for a
oh
bit,
yeah,
considering that they might be on less than a hundred
bro, a
thousand.
lot, a
Yeah,
lot.
right. So I don't think McTominay is like a massive earner. I think he's in that earnings that you should be roughly like 100 to 150, maybe
Mm-hmm.
175, which I don't think is bad for a squad player who's been there. But I definitely get where you're going with it. But we'll move on to the forwards now, and so this yeah.
Wait, did you were you gonna sell? Who did you say you were gonna sell in January in the midfield?
Um, Really, there's nobody to sell, unfortunately. So I would have said Donnie Vanderbeek, and then we went back and forth a bit on McTominay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, but everyone else you really can't sell. I mean, Amrabat, like I said, was on loan. I wouldn't sell Casemiro. Mason Mount, you just can't sell in January. You're
Can't
not selling Fernandez. You're not selling Erickson.
right,
Then you really had some wingers like Mano, who's Academy kid, Ahmad Academy, so you're not getting rid of them. Hannibal Academy, Palestri. I said Palestri, but I
right.
think you convinced me realistically to keep him. And at this point, see, I would still play Palestri over Anthony 100 out of 100 times. So I think you really convinced me on there, because I would sell. So now we go into the forwards. You
Right.
have Anthony Martial. I would absolutely sell in January. You're not going to get anything back for him. There's no point. Sell him for as much as you can. Marcus
Right.
Rashford, I would not sell in January, but I would sell in the summer. And so what I would hope to do is, because I think United, they've had moments where they've put a little bit together. It's usually in one half, not even a full game.
Right.
But I thought United looked better with Rashford out left, where he prefers
Yeah.
to play, Garnacho out right,
Right.
and then Hoyland through the middle. Okay. And I'm really upset with Ten Hag, how he went back to just to get Anthony into the squad, or because Martial and Hoyland weren't available. But against Nottingham, he puts Rashford up top, Garnacho out left, Anthony out right, instead of just keeping Rashford out left, Garnacho out right, and then maybe playing a false nine, or whoever, figuring somebody else out up top, but keeping those players wide who had just had a good performance. Either way,
Right.
so I would keep Rashford for January in hopes that he can find some form,
So
and
you can sell him
so you
in
could
the
sell him
summer.
in the summer. But I know the trick of it would be that United's like, he's back. And so that's a little bit of a concern, even that I would have, of him finding form again, is United thinking our star boy, he's back in form, we keep him, instead of trying to sell him at his highest value. Because you and me
Yeah.
both agree that if Rashford's playing in United, they're not going anywhere, just like we kind of think so really for Fernandez. But either way, so Anthony Martial, I would sell. Marcus Rashford, I would keep. Ramos Hoyland, I would keep. Garnacho, keep. Anthony, I would sell, although obviously I understand that you literally can't. Okay,
Right.
but I would get rid of Anthony. Um, you're stuck with him, and that's unfortunate. Jaden Sancho, I would sell. Um, and
Looking
obviously,
like he's gonna go to Dortmund.
I've seen reports that he might go back to Dortmund, but it's just, I'm just hopeful that they're selling him and they're not sending him on loan, because
I think
then,
they're gonna sell him on loan or send him on loan, and
but
then
see, with that,
there might be an option to buy. But
but here's how ridiculous.
again, it's
I know, but here's how ridiculous that is, Kevin. I'm going to stop you just one second. Here's how
go for
ridiculous
it, go
that
for
is.
it.
You've had what, 3-4 months to know that he should be getting sold and to sell him, and now you're going to let him go on loan, which loan players, their respective clubs, they
Still have
never
to pay.
you only get a reduction of salary. So
Mm-hmm.
meaning Dortmund's going to be like, hey, we'll take Jaden Sancho for you, but we're not paying him the 370 or 350 that he's earning. We'll pay him 150, which means United's still paying $200,000 a week for him to go play and perform at another club, instead of just outright selling him.
Well, I agree, and I agree on that in terms of, well, I take that back. I see what you're saying, but I think it's a smart option in order for him to get some sort of form back. So in the summer, you can then actually sell him for some type of money, because unfortunately, and this is the real unfortunate part about it, is the reason why Dortmund is really the only team interested is because they're the only team that really looks at him and says, we know what this guy can do, right?
Right.
So what you need is for him to go do the business at Dortmund, and then people will be like, oh, okay, yeah, it was just United's fault. That's why he played that way. So then you can then sell him in the summer for more money than that.
See,
And the thing is, if
I love how
go,
you're optimistic, because I take this approach. I think he goes to Dortmund, and I think he shits the bed. I think he does not play into form at Dortmund, because he's
I
not
don't,
been playing for six
right,
months.
right,
He's been
right, right.
bad for the
But
last 2.5 years. I don't think he magically goes to Dortmund and finds form, which then Dortmund, to me, would say, well, we got to look at him for the last 6 months, and he's worse than he was when we sold him to you 3 years ago. Like, we're not really going to pay for this kid now. That's
but
my
that's the thing.
fear.
But that's my big thing is like you're to the point with Sancho and even with Anthony as that continues where beggars can't be choosers. Like you guys bought him for this exuberant amount from a team um with really no basis. You know what I mean? Jaden Sancho more than Anthony, but really no basis to pay the amount of money that you paid for him. And so the only option that you really have is to be like, okay, go be in this good environment where you've already performed, and hopefully you rediscover at least half of that form. Because otherwise, because nobody else is going to come in and buy him, because you've allowed him to earn money, play video games, and blatantly disrespect your manager. No other team is going to be like, yo, I want this kid. Why? Like, he's literally done all of the bad things anybody in management looks at and is like, dude, I don't want him anywhere near my dressing room. So doesn't really matter how good your team or your scouting team or your whatever business team is at selling players. Like, it was very unlikely that was going to happen, especially as it progressed in a downward spiral. So I think your only option is to send him to a team that values him already, hope that he does well. And even if he doesn't do great, at least you then can say, all right, we'll sell him to you for X amount. Because they weren't going to buy him anyways. They already sold. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no options. There's no options. Nobody was going to buy him in January, in my opinion.
I could have seen him. I could have seen him being bought in January. I just don't think you're going to get as much value as maybe United thinks they still have a chance to get for him. Because I think a team would have easily come in and bought Sancho for 30 to 40 mil. Absolutely.
I don't think anybody would have bought him. I think anyone anyone that would have been able to afford getting him would have been smart enough at business to come in with a loan offer.
Okay, see, this is the thing. This is what I was going to say. Is like I think a lot of teams would have bought him, but affording his salary is what they can't do.
Exactly, which is why the loan option.
Right, which is why the loan option. Right. So anyway, get rid of Sancho. They have this kid on the roster. I've never seen him play short tire, so I don't know about that kid. And then they have Mason Greenwood, who's obviously on loan. Now, I would go ahead and sell Greenwood. The reports are like Barca's interested. I think I even saw a report that Madrid might be interested.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's playing pretty well where he's at in Spain. I think you just sell him in January if you were able to. You get your money back. Or not money back, you just make a profit because he's an academy kid. But realistically, even if he doesn't get sold in January, you sell him in the summer, and you kind of go from there. So
he doesn't come back.
I just don't think. I think he can have a career playing soccer. I just think it needs to be outside of England.
Yeah, I think for sure it'd be too much of a distraction to have him back in the locker room at United, which, is unfortunate in terms of his talent. Obviously not the other situation. But in terms of the talent is like, wow. Like,
well, I mean, obviously, because United had never thought that they were going to need to buy a young center forward. Like when they obviously bought Højlund, obviously the idea was that Greenwood was going to be there. I don't, the talent. Yeah, I think you even saw, like, you had heard reports that his attitude was like pretty shocking, and he didn't listen to anybody. So I don't think getting rid of bad locker room guys is necessarily a bad thing. So anyway, but that goes through the whole list. Honestly, we didn't really go through a ton of guys to sell in January. I think we hit about 4, maybe 5 max. Really, we do another segment, which we got to at some point, of let's go through the list and who should be sold in the summer. I think
let's do a quick off.
No, we can't do it.
Do a quick 15-second roulette. What 5 players would you sell in the summer? Go. You got
5 players we sell in the summer. I would sell. This is based. Is this based off of nobody gets sold in January?
No, it's just who would you sell in summer that you?
I would sell Anthony Martial. I would sell Jadon Sancho. I would sell Donny van der Beek. That's 3. I would sell. Can't sell him. I would sell Maguire. That's 4, and I would sell. This 5th one. I would sell Rashford 5.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
You stuck me on the 5. I want to say Anthony again. A lot of these are based off of like I know you're stuck, right? Which means like Anthony would have been in there. People, okay? Any of United fans, Anthony would be in there. but nobody's going to pay for him with how bad he's done. So you're stuck with Anthony.
And his salary, like the salary. I mean, the biggest problem that you guys have is salary. Like even more so than the exuberant transfer, it's salary, because at the end of the day, you guys are still making. You got this at the end of the season. You guys will still make a significant amount of money.
Right.
So losing some money on players won't be a huge deal. The problem is that you can't even sell players for a third of their actual value due to their salary. Like that's
right,
the major
right.
issue.
Right, that's the biggest issue is nobody wants to pay, and then they don't want to leave because they're on these contracts, and they're like, well, why would
Because
I
they
give
have the salary. Why would you
$6 million a
that's
year?
yeah,
Right.
that's the biggest thing is like you can try to sell Anthony in the summer, and you could even try to sell him for 15 mil, but nobody is going to be like, yeah, we'll take him for 15 mil and then pay him
200,000
225.
a week, right?
Yeah,
like he should be on 100,000 a week, maybe at this point. So
mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, United just constantly stuck between a rock and a hard place. But apparently, a lot of the scuttlebutt is Serginho or Ratcliffe is trying to drop the salaries of players. So a lot of the guys that are on the big bucks right now, he's looking to offload, like the Sancho, the Varane, even the Casemiro. Which then I would hope a Rashford is included on. So you're getting rid of all of these guys that are on 300 or more, and you're trying to really get that down back to, your highest guy is maybe at 250 at the most. And that really should be your captains and your, a couple of your leaders, or, guys
Bruno
that
should be the highest paid player on the team.
Right.
So guys, my question for you is, who do you think will win the FA Cup? Tell us in the comments, and we will pick the best answer.
How can we pick the best answer?
What do you mean? We'll just
United. That's the best answer.
No, bro. Like we'll pick the best. What we think is the best answer. United's still in the FA Cup?
Yeah, right now.
Oh shit, bro. I had no idea.
All right, so if anybody picks United, you have the best.
No.
As always, guys, really appreciate you tuning in and listening. Drop a like and a comment. We always appreciate any support. And until next time, this is it for More Than Numbers.